And it's just gone wonky again. It's not letting Raphael be in it.
Darkness and light, yeah, IT. Darkness and light, yeah, IT.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Kristen Gray. So, Alethea, Karen, and Howard, how are you experiencing this? What are you noticing? Yeah.
I'll go. I was noticing from kind of a detached state, actually, how the muscles work in pairs, and when one contracts, the other one is relaxed. Like you tighten the bicep and the tricep is relaxed. So every time we move, we have both the lightness and the dark, and the parts that we experience as negative kind of dark, as pain, are contractions that are from being tired, or it's not the natural everyday movement. It's when we're a little too far into the dark and we're having pain with it. And then I was seeing the earth going around on its axis day, and we're on it experiencing day and night and summer and winter, and just all these different iterations of light and dark that are just a natural part of nature, that are part of nature. And I found it very lovely.
Not just part of nature, but part of the cosmos is what you're pointing to. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how do you feel it within your own self?
In myself, I wasn't as embodied as I usually am doing this work. But when you were having us move, then I was more aware of it in myself, and that's when I noticed that the parts that are uncomfortable are where something's been contracted too long, or it's in a spasm, or it's strained, or something like that. And I felt into that. But I was more detached, less embodied through that whole practice than I typically am. I was off on this fantasy about darkness and light.
Well, maybe there's just awareness arising too.
It's lovely. I mean, I think what you were talking about is real. I was just wondering how it also, like, how it feels personally. That's, I guess, more what I was asking in terms of like I heard you say a little bit about the experience of the contraction happening, of creating some kind of pain where it's holding on for too long, right? And I was just curious how you hold that. What is it? What's your relationship to it? Like Malik was talking about how he said that it was a little bit difficult. He realizes that he sees contraction or darkness as bad, and that a part of him really has a hard time going towards it. So I was kind of curious. And then Kristen was talking about how there's this interesting dynamic. A part of her, I think, wants to go towards darkness, but another part of her feels so aligned with light, she just kind of, it's easy to stay in light. I think that's what I got from you. And so I was just curious, what is your personal
my personal, I very easily will stay too much in the darkness, frankly, because if I get a little frightened by something that happens, if I have physical pain, if I need help, anything like that is triggering to me will make me go into darkness and just hold and care for myself in the darkness. I have a little more difficulty sharing and being in the light if anything, I guess a less pleasant feeling or sensation.
Pause for a second. We're letting the train go by.
Can't hear it. We can't.
I missed a little of what you were saying. So if you could just repeat, it was so lovely, and I could feel the energy. So if you could just repeat that, I'm so sorry.
If I have a tendency to go too much one way or the other, it's a tendency personally to be drawn into the darkness, to stay in the darkness, to self-soothe. Darkness is very much my friend. and I'll have more difficulty sharing sometimes. That's just kind of how I am in general. And if anything frightens me, if anything hurts me, I want to go into the darkness. My first instinct is not to share it. It's to retract into myself and self-soothe in darkness. Darkness is very much my old friend.
And so there also feels like, even though it's your old friend, there's something that you want to hide about it. So it sounds like it has like almost a double.
It's private.
It's private, or
It's
like
private.
that. Yeah,
So-
because of that,
Uh-huh.
it may have some shame or something
Mhm.
connected to it. That's what I was just curious about, because it sounds like there's something.
It's not exactly shame. Well, no, maybe it is. It's not that the darkness is shameful. It's more like if am having an experience that I feel shame or uncertainty about, that I want to retreat into the quiet comfort of darkness.
I have a question about that, because I also retreat. I always
Mhm.
retreat. So,
Mhm.
but I don't think of that as being the darkness. I think of that as being going inward, almost like to find the light about it, or to see it. You know what I mean? Like to find something. Like if I go in, if I went out and, that's not helpful. People and their ideas about anything, or usually it's not so helpful, but to go in is to open something that can see or feel or more deeply. It's almost like that invites something else that I wouldn't call darkness. Is that true?
Want to come back to that. I want
Okay.
to hope, I want to have Howard finish, because it may, I know that his will tie into this. I have several things, and you may want to know that personally, but it's very rich, very amazing. But Howard?
Wow, thanks. It's been a lovely exploration, and starting right away with what you said of darkness just is, go, okay. And so I've had a couple different pain issues. I broke scapula back in June that I'm still dealing with moderate amount. And then I pushed too hard in my bike riding the last 3 days in a row. I rode 3 days in a row, which was really exciting. And then yesterday I went on a walk and I was going, oh my gosh, my legs are trashed. And so I'm very aware of two different distinct pain areas. And so the idea of going in and going, okay, it just is. And it's not bad, because it's like my default is, if something aches, pay attention to it so that you can make it go away. So the idea of going, well, wait, it just is, go, well, if it just is, then the little guy who wants to fix it, he can have the day off. So that was a lot of what I was dealing with, is going, yeah, you can have the day off. It just is. And absorbing that experience, which was frankly different. So that was
Right. Wonderful. And I just want to bring up a piece about that, because it's so beautiful what you're describing. There is a difference between this is why I started with the sensate in the body. Right? It's because there's a difference between this sensate contraction of the body, as you were talking about so well, Alethea, that it's like, of course, when one muscle contracts, another one relaxes. And so it's a constant antagonist that is going on. So it's there, right? But at the same time, what you're describing is that how it shifts, and how that the body's desire, because the body has a certain desire to be in, I would say, in neutrality and no pain, right? Because that's what the body wants. It's like on a body level, it's designed to contract, but also relax, to relax and also have a little contraction, but to be in balance. That's what homeostasis, I guess you could say. The body is designed for that. So when you go into the body part, what you're going to find is that there's areas that are out of balance that have had to, and I'm not talking about, right now, I'm not going psychological, I'm just talking about a very sensate body experience. And that can be experienced as a certain form of denseness, darkness, where the body has had to compensate for different things that's happened in your body, right? And for different systems. Now, where the complexity comes in is what you just spoke about. The part of you that then believes there's something bad about it and needs to get rid of it. Those are the pieces to me that become curious and interesting. And that's why I was asking you, Alethea, a little bit, because it feels like there's something that arises and then there's some part that tells you to go and not to go more within, but not to go to find it, so to speak, but more like you said, self-soothe. I'll just kind of, it's like when you have a canker sore, that's what I think of self-soothing, and you keep touching the canker sore with your tongue. You're not really doing anything to understand it or, make it any better or anything that would just be holding it. You're just, you're going over it and over it and over it again.
Yeah, and I want to come back to the train. Feels like a parallel process with you, Howard. That little fixer wanted to get rid of the train noise, right? Like get rid of it, fix the pain. It was like almost mirroring that movement in your psyche, as opposed to, sometimes it's a natural adjustment. It's different if the fixer isn't there, but if you meet that place in your body, there may be a dialogue like, oh, let's shift this way a little bit, a natural adjustment that arises, but that's different from fixing it. That some part has an idea of how it's supposed to be, and that's not in dialogue and relationship, right? So I want to come back to Kristen Grace's. So as you have this experience, what's it like for you as you go in? I can say some things, but I would like to go to your experience first. When you say, I go in, because here's the outer world we're aware of, right? When you say, I go in, remembering Moidanine's high self, conscious self, and the basic selves, 3 levels or realms, and I can talk about it in different ways. What do you mean? Is it the same thing when you go in? Are there different realms of going in? What's your experience? You could imagine going in right now. What's it like? What are you tuned to? What happens?
Well, like, I don't. So for example, if I'm triggered in a relationship or something, right? I'm not gonna, I want to know, so what I'll do is I'll notice what's going on in me. And then I'll kind of, I think, well, historically, I have over tended, to the whole thing, like trying to do my part and the other person's part and skillfully communicate and ask for what I need. And I mean, it's beyond. And now I'm not in that. I'm wanting to wait until I can be met, in a relationship where I'm not tending to both parts. So that's been historical. So because I've had now that I think took place because I had abandonment.
Kristen, I'm going to pause you. I
Yeah.
want to come back to going in, because that was your inquiry.
So,
It was about sometimes going in is there's a comforting silence. There could be a comforting silence you talked about and other things. So as you go in right now, what's your experience?
If I go in, and right now, yeah, there's a lot going on. Like there's so many things inside. If I go in, I am.
One, you're aware of so many things going on inside. So
I'm kind of like trying to be with, like, stop moving so that I can see my mind, feel my body, kind of come to the territory is how it feels. And when I come to the territory of what's going on, and I usually don't believe the mind so much, because the mind just has whatever. That's a
just told you, there's a very brilliant part like me that's very ethereal, and it's going on a certain level, and we can go there. But I would be more interested, Chris and Grace, if you just said, wow, you all are moving so quickly.
Oh,
Because what's happening, you're being empathic, rather than that little fix it, calm down, right? It's like, wow, see, you all are moving so fast. I think as you're going in right now, you're becoming aware of the psychological level, right? Of all these things happening, right?
that's brilliant, because that's the still place. Wow.
So you
And
have movement and stillness at the same time. That's the infinite level of the witness and of high self coming to the turbulence. So right now they are both there. Just allow the stillness, and it developed when you said, you all are just moving and whirling. Wow.
you know what's so amazing about that? This is what I've developed in my work, is to do an inquiry that does exactly that. You're just going to stop, take the moment, see what the mind is doing, see what the body is doing. I have an entire toolkit on that particular thing that I make everybody else do. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, actually. But so it's not so effective. It's not like, anyway, because it's hard to do. It's hard to get it to, in the moment. It's like, wow, just dropping into a moment.
There's a concept that it's hard to do.
Yes.
The natural part of our being.
Yes.
So part of you believes it's hard to do. All I did was say, just stay with where you were and say, you guys are moving. That didn't seem hard to do at all.
No, that's right. That's exactly right.
So just see what it's like.
And
Just take nothing
then
long.
ballast is taken from the parts into the seeing. Wow, that's really beautiful.
I know this is so interesting. I was in there myself when you were talking. I was like, I could feel all the parts of me that like to talk and share the very ethereal parts. Then I'm just doing this practice while we're here. I'm bringing in a rainbow from the Southern Cross that bathed me and bathed us all. And I'm like, I'm just here. This is so lovely. It's like, yeah,
What
yeah,
did you
we'll
say?
see. Oh, it's just this practice I'm doing while we're here. And then I'm like, I could feel the parts of me that want to comment and move and do all that.
And even talk about the Southern Cross. That's a whole nother part
That's
of
a
it,
whole nother
right?
part of it.
It's like a
But it's
ethereal
just,
part.
but I'm just there with what's arising in me while I'm with you all and with Yaya and what's unfolding in the moment. It's like, ooh,
But we can get lost in any of those.
yeah,
And so that's the whole piece. We can get lost in,
yeah. Especially mind types, I think, like me. I think like I suspect you, Krista Grace. And I want to come to Malik because he has
Yes.
patiently is embracing silence and is holding his hand up. Wow. I heard the sound of your silence there, Malik.
but you have to,
You have to unmute over this. We won't hear enough of your
Modern times, I'm muted. No, I had some insight come through. I can relate to having a part of me is very strongly mind-centered, by the way. So I can relate to that very much. Um, but the insight is because I said I have this overlay in darkness of it's bad and I have trouble with it. But then after I said that, I was sitting with it, listening to our process, and I'm like, wait a minute, the whole picture is I'm attracted to it as well. Like it's mixed. I'm attracted and repulsed for different reasons, and I also really enjoy it. And I often identify with darkness a lot more. So it's kind of tricky, but my insight is I know now why, because I sat with it for a while, and I'll say things, something will come up, and then I have to sit with it, and it'll have to cook a little bit before something arises, and the darkness is bad is a part of me that associates darkness with my depression, my mood disorder. So, um, so I think more accurately, I would say I have had issues with darkness with my depression, and that has colored my reactions to it. So I have parts that are scared that if I embrace darkness, that it will take over, that the depression will take over. There's this kind of scary story there. Because it has happened in the past when I was younger. And so there's some evidence that that has happened, but it's not happening now. It's not happening now, and that helps me to see that and to know that. Um, but I was hoping I wanted to share that because it includes more of the whole picture of for me, and um, I'm also able to tell those parts of me that I understand. I hear that fear. I hear that the anxiety that's arising, and yeah. So maybe that's the first step is just to hear it, recognize, and understand. Um,
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love the way you described the identity with darkness. And that's often why there's parts inside that are so afraid or have to fix it.
mm.
That's that's coming down to what's really going on here.
Yeah, and the uh, the mood disorder that I live with is it is compressing. It is kind of it's inward collapsing. Well, that might be a good word for it, but you know what I mean. It goes inward. It's a reduction, not an expansion. And so I often feel that kabid and the darkness around it. And it's interesting because I there's a certain comfort in this and going inward. There's a comfort, and so it's mixed. It's a mixed experience.
Well, what you're describing, I love that, because if you could talk even about the comfort when you're going like this, the comfort in kind of coming in, because that's an identity again. This is who I am, and it's comforting. What's that like? Can you share? I mean, I wonder about that for you, Karen, when you talk about that you withdraw. And that it feels very, sorry, Alethea, that it feels very similar, that same kind of a piece of like coming into something that I used to recognize that I would go into this place really, really like nobody could find me. Right. And I could feel that how it was like I didn't have to deal with anything else. So I loved it. So I don't know what it's like
I
for you.
can I can relate to that. The yeah, so it's like if I super tune inward, if I turn my eyes away from the world outside, and I go totally inward, the it's like I'm in a familiar space. I'm in a familiar place, and I understand things better. It's like I get attached to being inward. Um, and I noticed that there's also some, because we've been talking about like the spiritual bypass a little bit, and that I can feel it. I'm like, oh, there's this crazy out there in the world. I'm just gonna go inside and where things are a little more comfortable. So yeah, that is definitely like I have Yeah. Well, you mentioned identity. There's like
Yeah.
I know myself this way, so I'm going to go into the part where I know myself better, and or quotes know myself better. Um, yeah.
Just want to come back because it touches me so deeply, the way you were able to name that impression, the whole association, how of coming in, right? And the sort of trauma or the memories of the depressions and the fear that the darkness is the depression. So you experience that impression in your psyche overlaid whatever darkness is. And I think we can continue to, or in Silence R, we continue to explore that. Because you can go in and on that spiritual level of high self, the darkness can be this very refined energy of the Raham and the Rahim, the womb of the universe, the dark matter and dark energy that holds everything. And it can also be, when I had a depression. So do we tune in on that psychological level? And as we work with that, it opens us naturally to those other levels. And sometimes, like when you were first talking, Kristen Grace, I thought there's also some of that comfort that could be on a psychological. This is how I held and nourished myself, because I can relate. I have a part that just would go into a little fetal position just to really protect. And though it was isolating and I was alone, that part also didn't want to come out and meet the trauma again. So there's a comfort and a safety in that. But that really wasn't the Black Latif. That wasn't the Silent Night. That wasn't the background velvet of the universe, as Griff said, who you mentioned earlier. And he's a lighting designer. There's the darkness of the universe on a physics level, but it has subtle movement and motion, and it's what everything comes out of and goes back into. So all these levels are happening simultaneously. And I just really appreciate your naming the past history of depression. I come in silence in that. There's a part that's go, oh my God, it's the depression. So that's where we are.
And it's not always right. Right.
Right.
I mean, this is the protector, and the protector doesn't have a clue sometimes. Like it looks like it's happening, so it'll mobilize and activate. And I've lived long enough now that it's sometimes we get down, sometimes we just don't feel great, and it's not necessarily a depression event. Um, but my protector said, "Oh, it's happening again," and it will just activate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it might not even be just a little of the day. It might even be a place of real silence and rest, like in the song. So it's so amazing, Malik, the way you said the song had a negative, and you listen to it this time, you're like, oh my goodness, there's a different quality of silence.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I do want to recognize while I'm sharing here that I've had trouble living with a mood disorder. It has not been easy, as you know, we all have something. We all have something we're living with. But I think, and especially for an A type 4, I think it also it has some issues too that I have to work with where I already have some of that going on, so it just kind of adds another layer. Um, and but it has also taught me how to not get attached to what the feelings that are arising. It's helped me to get very like a more conscious self direction where it's like, oh, this is arising. Um, so yeah, I've advanced, I've leveled up a little bit with this, but I want to recognize that it's been really hard for me to uh, live anyway. With this, it was just quite a challenge for me when it arrived and showed up in my life. It definitely like drug me down, and it took me quite some time to get back on my feet.
Thank you so much for naming and sharing that with us. I really appreciate, I'm really touched. Thank you. Yeah.
I can really feel the resonance with some with all of us, including
Yeah.
myself, with this. I guess what I'm so struck by is that with the journey with darkness is that whatever, I mean, we can we all have some kind of darkness that is, if it wasn't, we wouldn't have any light. Right? So really, light cannot come and just exist without the darkness in form. So we have this darkness, and then we have all of our relationship to that darkness. How we feel about it, how different selves try to protect us, how we might feel like that's really who we are. And so you can see, if we believe on one level that that's who we are, then the protectors are going to be huge around it. We must get rid of it. Like you were talking about, Howard, got to get rid of that pain in the body. And that pain sounds like it's been an identity for you. And so it's like, you have to, nope, not going to go there because it means something's wrong and bad. So each of us have that. And that would be really helpful to just be able to hold that and name that. Like what I'm hearing for you is it's depression. Depression, Malik, is what your darkness is, quote unquote. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And to approach it in that way, as we begin to name it, how we can actually speak with it, have a more open dialogue with this darkness.
I did want to mention just really quick again, a little bit, that those words just now, thank you. That's what I had to do to live with depression. I had to make friends with my depressed self. And so many, many years ago, I held the concentration. I'm going to let you lay on my couch. Here's my couch in my house. It's an energetic couch, you can crash on the couch, and so my depressed self has accepted that and agreed to do that, and he's been there ever since. So he's crashing on the couch, and I did. The other thing I had to do is I had to let him know that I didn't expect him to do anything else. That's it. That's all, he can just stay there. And so I had to make friends. It was the only way.
Yeah, and I'm sure as Yaya is saying, each of us have, I have two right here. I can feel them. I know them. They're the ones that I'll just be working with for this lifetime, probably. I don't know. Yeah.
And some of us feel it more bodily. I mean, that's the thing, is we're going to go into the emotions. We're going to go into more next time. But it's like beginning to get what that is for you. Like, can each of you, you've spoken to it, Malik, so each of you know what a piece of your darkness is that
especially in the body.
Yeah.
What that pattern or tension is, or emptiness or burning. Where do each of you find that?
I have something to say about that. In my recent experience with having really bad pain in my shoulder before I had my shoulder replaced, I had several months of off and on quite excruciating pain. And I started doing a meditation practice, which involved kind of what you're talking about, Malik, making friends with it. But in terms of, instead of pushing it away, because pain, especially really bad pain, you very instinctively want to push it away. But exploring it, and the practice focused on finding the edges of it, the shape of it, the size of it, and the color of it. When I entered deeply into that, it was quite enlightening, and it would lift the overwhelming aspect of the pain, where I wasn't like blended with it, I guess, blended with the part of me that was in pain. And it would even sometimes last for days, that I had a better relationship to the pain so that it wasn't so overwhelming. it was a really profound experience, to the extent that when the surgeon told me we need to, it would be good to operate on this. It would be good to do a shoulder replacement. I felt, part of me felt like I had failed in in my in my exercise of managing the pain. Um, but that was because I couldn't maintain it all the time. It was really interesting and elucidating to experience that with severe pain. And at times it was quite freeing to be able to be in that relationship with the pain where I wasn't identified with it, but I could feel it.
Mhm.
And that's we're only human after all. So you could only hold that for so long rather than the
Mhm.
shame. What a miracle. And I want to come back as we're exploring where these are in our bodies. I use that little mnemonic: cliff, contour, location, intensity, frequency, form. And with what you're saying, Alethea, we could do color, contour, intensity, frequency, form. When it's energetic in the body, that can be a helpful mnemonic to help us, because the meditation you did, Alethea, was going almost right along with that. Right. And that's what I was basing on that in the guided so part of the Stoic meditation. So that might be helpful for you or not, but it's one way. How do I really explore this, what it is in my body, Because no one taught us how to do that.
Wow. I mean, I've never heard that before. What is it?
It's Dan Siegel.
Well, it's also,
Me.
come on, it's,
Oh, it's movement.
well, it's also, what's his name?
Spiral.
No, the guy who wrote about who's pain.
Stephen Levine.
Yeah, Stephen Levine.
Stephen Levine and Dan Siegel. People come up with.
He's been doing it for a long
Siegel
time.
just does mnemonics.
The thing that I was using was Zen meditation, Shinzen Yang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's been around for a
It's
long time.
everywhere.
It's
Different people
everywhere.
will. I just like the little mnemonic for it. It's sort of a fun little mnemonic.
It's good.
Or Kristen Grace, how
But-
do you notice those things
But I
right
really-
now?
yeah, I
That
want to know,
pattern.
do you feel that in your body anywhere? And I'm also curious about Malik. Where's the depression in his body? It's like, that's where the more you find it in your body, like you felt it with your shoulder, Alethea, when that was happening, but where does it go? Where's the darkness?
And where's it now after the shoulder surgery? Because that's a lot better.
Right, so then what happens?
Well, I
So-
would just say, like, everything we do is my solar plexus. Everything. I mean, not everything, because some things are hard, but I just find that I have not had a solar plexus, and I'm having a solar plexus when I'm here. It's like, oh my gosh, there's something about power of an individual me that I haven't had that identity, I guess. And or I mean, and that energetic, I don't know if it's an identity, but the energetic of this place, of the solar plexus,
And
because
before was it like an emptiness or a missing, and now there's a substance there. What's it like in the physical?
totally exactly not been felt, and then now being felt. It's like it's organizing something, and it's helping me learn how to I don't know, organize my mind somehow. It's very strange. I mean, it's very, very strange, because I'm actually not a mind type. I'm actually a 9. So it's like any type 9. So that's like, hard for me to find me, in things. And so I've been trying to organize my mind, which is what the writing is about. And so when I'm here, this gives me a solar plexus. It's weird.
You're organizing from the bottom up through the body, which is the foundation, and then that naturally organizes the mind.
Oh, the body organizes the mind.
Whole body rests on the body ego, the felt sense of the body, which actually opens to infinity in the cosmos, but it's all about coming embodied. It's all about embodied spirituality, which is darkness and light completely.
Wow.
Malik, where are you finding in your body?
Yeah, just thank you for the prompt. explored that, and I'm exploring it now, and it's actually the base of my where my neck meets the shoulders, and there was some soreness around it. Kind of like, I guess maybe where the wings are, where it's connecting to the wings. Um, that's a big place where the energy is right now. Um, I also feel a little bit in my heart. It's close to the heart there, that spot. And
Mhm. It is.
I'm just intrigued that you use the word wings in that area. So pay attention, maybe there are actually wings emerging. I don't know. Just stay with it. Yeah.
yeah, that's I don't know, I'm thinking maybe this is unrelated, or actually maybe it's very related, that for the longest time, I felt my right wing was missing. And
Mhm.
I had a constant like sense that there was nothing there, that I had a left wing and no right wing. And I don't I actually don't feel that way anymore. Lately, I've been sensing in like today, and not just today, but more recently, that both wings are there. It's just for a long time, it felt like there wasn't a right wing. And so um I definitely feel both of them at the base here where it connects. I can feel both of them very close.
Mhm.
So at first I was thinking, well, maybe that was unrelated, but actually I think it's related. I think there's a link here. Um, yeah, because
Mhm.
when, through my explorations, I learned what that represents, the symbolism of not having a right wing. I learned that that is your outward life, something about your outward life not being present or underdeveloped or missing somehow. And so my depression ended my life. I describe it often as it ended my life. It threw me off the merry-go-round, and I had to learn how to get back on my feet and get back on life, get back into life. And so it's been quite a journey, quite a strength training journey, getting getting back into a flow, a regular flow. Um, so yeah, I guess that's interesting, because I had a sense of no right wing, but now it's like there is a right wing. Yeah, and especially what I have done things to be more in life again, to be embodied and back in my life. And so it doesn't surprise me that I can sense it. I've been noticing that I'm doing more, I'm becoming more, I'm more solid. Um, because my response to that, my reaction was to go inward. I went even more inward when all of that happened. Yeah.
So as you just let yourself come back into your body and feel that connection, as you talked about, that go from your spine, the bottom of your neck, connecting into the wings. Just feel into that for a moment and breathe into it and see what you're aware of.
My right wing is speaking to me and saying I was never gone.
Mm. There's more awareness there.
Yeah.
And so just let yourself, like on a sensate level, let that awareness, see what it's like to move that little area to the right, to the left, and just feel how it's connected into your neck and head. Just on a really gentle level, just feeling those connections. Because one of the things about the body, because it is so dense, is that things get really caught with a particular way that we are in our bodies, right? So as we let ourselves just feel into it a little bit more, move with it, it's like we're also encouraging the body to make new connections, right? Because we're saying, I'm here with you. I want to allow for there to be more, for me to know you more, and for me to do that, it's easier for us to be in some kind of balance.
It does a reboot.
Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
like a reboot.
Reset to where it is now, not where it was.
Yeah.
Like a refresh.
So that's the other thing I would suggest, is that you play with it with your body. Like when you're noticing those things, Howard, in your legs or whatever, that your legs are like, wow, I can really feel it. Well, I have the same thing that happens to me every time I go on if I go on a big walk, or even after I have a massage, sometimes I don't feel it until after I take the walk. And then it's like, ooh, yeah, now I'm feeling it. So it's like, what is your body wanting? How does it want you to respond to it, to be with it in this way? And to think of it as more of a fluid system of
Unfolding.
unfolding. Yeah.
Dynamic.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I mean, that's the best I can think of it. Hello, pain, my old friend, whatever it is, Hello, contraction, my old friend.
And two, for Chris and Grace to really explore and move
Yeah.
in the solar
the solar
plexus area,
plexus.
play with it and really celebrate when it's empty, and when it's full, it's like, oh, what a mystery is happening. That's the embodiment of the mystery. Yeah.
And Alethea, we'll hear from you next time, hopefully, on where do you think the darkness is in your body? Because we'll be moving into another piece, but see if you can find where that darkness is, where there's usually certain patterns in the body that definitely hold, whether it's like you're feeling the sturdiness, which is a form of darkness, Kristen Grace. And so in doing that, that there's an emptiness that exists when that's not there. But so in the body, there's those patterns that come and go.
Wow. Well, this has been lovely.
Yes.
We can all unmute and just say Yawasi as we so appreciate you doing the embodied deepening to come a little deeper into this too. It's really supports all of us in the larger group and in the world. So
yeah, the more we become conscious and aware, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
See you all next